Hello, I'm Evelyn O'Rourke and you're listening to the Drive Time Study Hub podcast. Episode 1, Planning and Preparing for Study at Home. Are now going to get stuck into some expert advice, and as we know, it's the start of a new year and the start of a new term, and after a long Christmas break it really is time to re-engage with our learning, put down the remote control and begin to plan the next few months and pack that kit bag, as they say, for the next part of the journey. But how do we even take those first steps? Well, we have two experienced educators ready to help. Ciara Riley is Assistant Lecturer in Education at the Marino Institute of Education, and Enda O Doherty is the founder of Study Skills Ireland. Ciara and Enda, you're both very welcome to the programme.
Hi, Evelyn.
This evening. Now,
hi, how are you?
We're very good. Listen, Ciara, let's start with you. We'll give you the opening question. You know, I said there about putting down the remote control. It is really hard to re-engage with work, isn't it? So what is the single thing that you'd advise as students begin this term working from their bedrooms?
I would advise any student out there to make sure that they're maintaining really strong links with their school. So don't be afraid to reach out to your teachers or your lecturers at whatever level you're studying and working. And, you know, admitting that you need a little bit of help or you need a little bit of, you know, a little bit more intense support because we are working under these suboptimal circumstances. It's really important to know that you can turn and look for help. I mean, we are crucially aware that online teaching is very transmissive. You know, we're very much, we're just dishing out information to people and we don't have the warmth, you know, that real the personality that a classroom can foster. So I think reaching out for help and looking for it and not being afraid to ask for it is the most important tip that I'd give anyone.
It's a great tip. And also I was encouraged by the fact that both students said they feel a bit more confident about that environment this time. And hopefully it means that they will ask for help. I mean, Enda, you know, as we get started on learning from home, what do you think is the first thing a student, especially one preparing for those exams, what do you think they should do?
You know, when I'm working with students or teachers or schools, you know, I'm constantly, people are looking for this magic secret, you know, to get, how do I get all these points? How do I get that place in college I want? And people are often surprised when I tell them, you know, as someone who teaches study skills, the first two things I always focus on, my first two goals with any student is, one, are they healthy? And two, are they happy? Because if you get those two ingredients right, well, a lot of the other things fall into place. So for people, you know, getting back into school right now, you know, I'd be recommending really focus on the basics. So like a lot of us, you know, a bit too much Netflix, a bit too much chockies, staying up a bit later, lying in the morning.
Yeah, but it really is fun, Enda, now, in fairness.
Oh, listen, we're meant to do it. It's holidays, you know. But now that we're trying to perform or we're trying to study, you know, the best advice I would be giving students is try to get that sleep routine back. Try to have a regular bedtime. Try to have a digital sunset where, you know, you're not looking at screens and you're not doom scrolling before you go to sleep. Try to get up at a regular time. And, you know, that sleep will have knock-on effects into so many other parts of your study. Equally so, you know, you can make energy by spending energy. So if you get up and exercise, and it doesn't matter whether it's skipping in the garden, walking the dog, cycling within your 5K, the more you move your body, get out of breath and sweaty once a day, and it will reduce a lot of that anxiety and stress that you're having. You know, I heard a dietitian speak recently, Evelyn, about study and, you know, brain food, and she said, you know, if you eat junk, you'll feel junk. So if we get the sleep, get the exercise, get the food right, get the basics right. You know, the analogy I used with one of your researchers today was we were talking about a car. You know, a lot of students are getting into this car and they're intent on going really fast, but it's really important that they put, you know, solid wheels under them first. Get the basics right first, and then we can look at, you know, your motivation, we can look at your technique, we can look at time management, all of these lovely things. But, you know, get you as a person healthy and happy first, and that's going to really make the process a lot more enjoyable and a lot less stressful.
I'm kind of intrigued by the use of the word happy, because it's not something that anybody associates with students stuck in their room. I mean, Ciara, for example, for you, you're saying, look, you totally agree with what Enda says about the phone and doom scrolling, and we know, you know, we're all addicted to our phones, let's be honest. What do you say about that? What do you say about that endless need that we have to keep scrolling, particularly for students who are on the clock, really?
Yeah, and I have full sympathy for students because we're asking them to engage in the use of these platforms throughout the working and school day. And then we need to be conscious of the fact that they're also using these technologies to socialise. So, and they always have done. And these are the things that will anchor and support them throughout this period too. So they do need to, you know, go easy on themselves and, you know, just be kind to themselves and just look, yes, definitely monitor your time and how much time you're committing to the use of technology and get up and get active. but to also understand the difference between the two and managing your time in your use for tech for learning and your tech for your socializing, which is so important at this time when we are so isolated. It's something I am so conscious of as I lecture students and I see them sitting in spare rooms and sitting on the edge of beds, and it would break your heart. And I think that they need to know that the support systems are there. They just need to seek them out.
Now, Enda, you're the one who brought up that lovely phrase, doom surfing and doom scrolling. So, I mean, you're saying, look, try and manage it a little bit. You've talked about our health. You've talked about maintaining our social contacts. But what should we do if we expect to have those exams in a couple of months' time? What else?
Yeah, well, in terms of the doom scrolling, when I spoke to students who'd been through the Leaving Cert last year, and I was talking to them on what courses they were following, and I asked them to reflect on what was the hardest thing about last year, and they said that the key thing for them was that uncertainty, constantly worrying, would this be cancelled or that be cancelled? And what I've said to students this year is, just as you look out the window tomorrow and look at the clouds, and never would you think, I'd love to move that cloud, or you'd never think about investing energy in moving that cloud, because it's outside of your control, it's outside of your remit. And what I say to students is, look, certainly you need to watch the news, you need to know how to keep yourself safe during COVID, and you need to know if there's educational developments. But, focus on the controllables, focus on your destiny, your work pattern, what you're doing, and prepare as well as you can. Because if you invest huge emotion and huge time in the uncertainty, it will really just generate anxiety in you, and it'll really mean that you don't produce as much as you can. The SAS have a really simple saying that, proper preparation prevents poor performance. And students need to realise that COVID or no COVID, we need to invest time in preparation. I think probably, Evan, the most common thing people say to me at the moment is, God, it's so boring. Like, it's the same lesson online, and then I'm in my room and there's no variety in life. And, one of the simple tips I'd give to students listening tonight is to try to have variety in your study. So what sort of variety can we have? So, for example, constantly switching up the time for the study period. So rather than doing a block of 40, a block of 40, a block of 40, have 15, have 20, have 10, depending on the topic and depending on the subject, but mix up the time. Certainly mix up the subjects. The worst thing I think some people do sometimes is sit down and they do like 3 hours of chemistry, and then suddenly you hear them saying, God, chemistry is boring. Like, if you did 3 hours of anything, you'd be fed up with it. So mix the subject, mix the time. Most important is to mix up the technique, because I know so many students who don't actually know study technique or methodologies, and their basic technique is to stare at something and repeatedly read it until it goes in. And, that's not studying. That's what we call staring. So if you mix your subject, mix your time, learn some techniques and mix them, all of a sudden you'll find that your productivity goes up and your focus goes up.
Ciara, I can sort of feel you nodding there. Active learning, it's a key phrase really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, we learn in different ways. One of the things I always get my students to do is try to listen to podcasts as opposed to watching me deliver lectures via video link. And I think that kind of idea of really questioning how we are learning and the opportunities to learn in new ways, that's really exciting. It's one of the few benefits, I think, that will come out of this really traumatic time, that we're challenging how we learn, and the individual can really look at what works for them, as Enda outlined there, for the way that they learn best. So definitely active learning is so important. And physical health, emotional well-being, all of that needs to be factored into your working day. So I think that I would worry that students would focus on academic outcomes at all times and would really, not focus on their own health and well-being and that of those around them. Because the other thing we have to look at as well is our students are working in households that are, really, in very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, there's a lot going on under every roof, and everybody's pursuing their own kind of little world. Sure.
Yeah.
And being conscious of that and again, just cutting yourself some slack. Do set up your routines and do, challenge yourself to reach your goals as best you can, but looking out for your mental health at all times during this period as we progress, particularly with the uncertainty ahead. And I would definitely agree. Consuming a certain amount of media is healthy, but knowing when to step back when it's becoming too much is so so important.
Well, thank you both, Ciara and Enda, for joining us this evening. And, you know, I think switching off to listen to us here in the Study Hub is a legitimate use of your time for media consumption, so you can build that into your plans. But I know we'll be back to talk to you again in the future. We'll talk to you again in the coming weeks. Now, don't forget, you can text us here on 51551 with your comments and questions, or email us at studyhub@rt.ie.